That was my intern. Heavy called me and said, yo, Kurt, I got this kid, man. I want you to check him out. And I was like, what is it? What does he want? He said, yo, is he a rapper or a singer? I said, no, man, he just wanted to chance as an intern. I said, I could do that. I said, yo, anything you need, Heavy, I got you. Anything you need, Heavy, I got you. You notice that is a button.
Right.
Remember he made all those kids go to get cheesecake? Because something like that happened to him. If you don't do what you have to do, you'll be dead by Christmas. What month is this, Kurt? This is August. You'll be dead by Christmas.
Welcome to the Openish Podcast, and today I am with a very special guest, my mentor, my friend, Mr. Kurt Woodley.
What's up, everybody?
Kurt Woodley is he hates to be called an OG, but he's like an OG.
God.
Oh, he's an OG. He's not an OG, but he's
called OG.
He ain't been called an OG, but he is one of the OGs in the A&R business, and he has worked with and discovered some of your favorite hip hop and R&B artists. And we're going to get into that a little bit today, but he has one of the most interesting stories. And I can't wait to get into it. So thank you for coming.
Hey, welcome. Love it down in Atlanta. First time I was down here with Andre.
And Andre Harrell, of course, is the founder.
He's the chairman, founder, president of Uptown Records.
But he's also
my best friend.
How long have you and Andre known each other?
Since.
First off, rest in peace, Andre.
Rest in peace, Andre.
Rest in peace.
God bless his soul.
Good person.
I met Andre in 1983, maybe, at Lehman College. I was walking one way, he was walking the other. And he reminded me of somebody that went to Columbus High School, the high school I went to. So I said, young man, did you go to Columbus? He said, nah, I didn't go to Columbus. I said, nah, you went to Columbus. It wasn't the person I was thinking about, or I thought he was, but we became good friends. We were in the same Black Studies class.
How old were y'all?
Maybe like mid-20s.
Oh, y'all were young.
Yeah, he was a little younger than I was. He was like maybe a year younger. I took a year off from college. I didn't go straight in. I worked at this place called Modell's, and I hated it so much. I was like, yo, I got to go to school. This is crazy. So this is not going to work. And we met in school, and Dre and I used to sit in the back in the Black Studies class. We used to talk about crazy stuff, do our work. We just became like good friends. Because we both was nerds. Like when everybody was just getting into hip hop, he was wearing shirt and ties. I was wearing like, shirt with vest and, looking like a nerd, around glasses. So we kind of hit it off.
Not too much has changed, you know what I'm saying? You still.
Yeah, I'm still a nerd.
Not too much.
Still a nerd. If it was up to me, I wear petty loafers and polo shirts and all that stuff. But
so let's get into Andre starting Uptown. How did he come to you and say, hey, I'm thinking about starting this label and I want you to be a part of it?
What was funny, I was actually working with Andre before that. He was the vice president of Def Jam Records under Lior and Russell Simmons. And he says, Kurt, man, I might have a job for you. I said, why, you got a job? I said, what can I do? He said, I'm only having a messenger job. I could have been the dog catcher for the Rush. It was Rush Hush. And I just took the job and I learned everything. Like, you was just a fly on the wall. You saw LL Cool J actually bringing his boxing, the Beastie Boys, Run DMC, Houdini, and a slew of other great artists. That was when hip-hop first started. And the funny thing back then was, like, everybody was cool. Like, there wasn't no hierarchy or I'm like the superstar. It was just natural. Because back then, hip-hop artists was just starting to make a little bit of money. It wasn't the Benzes and houses and flying private jets. Like, everybody was just on the same level. Now, a couple of years after that, you got some superstars making big money. But right then, everybody was on the same level. So I was the intern, kind of messenger. And they looked at me like, yo, we're the same as we are. So, it was pretty cool. It was a pretty good experience. Well, it was called Rush. Def Jam didn't come for a couple of years later. Def Jam was the label. Rush was the management company.
Did you have a love for music and the arts prior to that, or did that kind of develop with you being in a...
I wanted to play basketball. And I found out I was too small. I couldn't dribble. I was a short point guard that I couldn't handle. So, my college career was cut short. I could shoot, but I couldn't handle. So I said, let me go take school seriously. So I went back to Lehman and working with Andre, you know, within student services and so on and so forth. He brought me on board with over at Rush. I was the messenger, but again, I got an opportunity to learn a whole bunch of stuff. This is the beginning of hip hop. Like people weren't taking it serious. They said, oh, it's going to be over in a couple of years. And it was just kind of brewing.
So let's fast forward to Uptown.
Okay.
Let's fast forward to finally you guys in the building. Uptown is established. This is a business now, and we need artists.
Yeah. So Andre was working at Rush, but he wasn't, I'm not to say he was unhappy, but he felt restricted. And he was more of like a suit and tie, R&B, champagne and bubbles guy. He wasn't really a hip hop dude. And him and Russell were cool, but he decided he wanted to do his own thing. So he called me one day and says, Kurt, man, I'm going to start my own label. I said, word? Like when? He said, maybe about a year. Now what happened was he went to get a job over at MCA on the West Coast. Didn't work out. When they go get a job over at MCA on the East Coast, that didn't work out. So a young lady named Lady B, who's actually a radio personality, hooked them up. She called Gerald Busby, who was the chairman of the urban department, and said, look, I think this guy Andre has something. I know he didn't work out on the West Coast. I know he didn't work out on the East Coast, but I think there's something there. And I kind of think he had to do it because Lady B was the program director. And she was like, I think she programmed one of the biggest stations in the country was, you know, Power 99 in Philadelphia. So Dre got $1 million deal. And I'll never forget this. He was running around like, I got $1 million. So we from the hood. We from the Bronx. So $1 million is like a lot of money. I went to his house one time and he had like these millionaire magazines and all this stuff. Like I said, this guy is souped up. Like it was funny, but it was like, yo, this guy got $1 million. But the crazy thing was you had to make the records, pay your staff, pay the rent, pay for marketing promotion with that $1 million. So we thought it was huge, but it wasn't as big as we originally thought. We had to do all these different things. The money kind of started to run out.
Of course. It always does.
What happened was one day, Dre said, Kurt, Jimmy, I got to have a conversation with y'all. He brought us downstairs. I was praying he wasn't going to say, yo, it's over.
Right.
I was like, man.
Because y'all the artists that made any records.
We basically was getting ready to put Heavy out. That like 75% of the money was already spent.
Right.
Between, you know, doing work and partying and hanging out. But, you know, Dre had $1 million. I said but Dre had $1 million. And we was just like doing it up. And right when Heavy was going to come out, he asked MCA for more money. And they said, no, you got to work with that. And he brought us downstairs and said, look, I can only pay you guys like 100 to 125 a week. I didn't care. As long as the party didn't stop and the fun didn't stop, I didn't care. Yo, as long as the party was going to keep moving, I was like, you could have paid me $30 a week. I was ready to go.
I'm so glad you delivered from them parties. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was like, yo, man, as long as we can keep this going, I don't care. And we worked for like $100 a week. And I was young at the time. I was living with my mom. I didn't have no really expenses. You know, we wasn't into clothes and jewelry and cars, and we wanted all that stuff. But this was the priority to us. So we had to kind of keep it pushing. And then what happened was, I'll Be Sure came on board.
Right.
See, I was a roadie for Heavy D and the Boys. And one time he made this record, and Dre had a relationship with Quincy Jones. He gave Quincy the record, and Quincy loved it. I was like, look, this guy's going to win. I think it was called the Sony Innovator Award. He won the award, came in first place, and he had a deal with Warner Brothers. Now, when this record started to move on Warner Brothers, MCA called Dre like, yo, Dre, let's sit down and talk. Because Warner Brothers MCA didn't want Andre to go to Warner Brothers. And they actually was trying to get Al to come over, but they thought it was a single deal. But part of the deal was it revolved into a whole album deal. So they couldn't get Al. But they did a deal for more artists with Andre at the time, which was great. So now we got a little bit more money. We're not getting paid $100 a week.
So first off, rest in peace, Heavy D for sure.
Yeah, Heavy D up. He's the guy who started it all.
And I was just about to say that.
Hev came down to Def Jam to try to go get a deal, right? And he didn't fit the criteria. There was no fat, heavy set dancers at the time. You know, you had, I think Chubb Rock might have came a little later, but there wasn't anybody that looked like him. I think the Fat Boys made it did something a little bit before. They were mostly like a joke. They were like unfortunately, like the Black Three Stooges almost. So basically when Hev came in, Russell was like, you know what? I'm not really feeling it. But Andre loved it. He was like, yo, dude, I want to sign. They're going to be the first act. And he had some other acts. So one day I was up in Andre's apartment. And he said, you know what, Kurt? I'm thinking about putting out the Brothers Black before I put out Hev. And I was like, yo, dude, this Mr. Big Stuff record is crazy. He said, you think so? I said, yo, it's got the G Knight record. There's no way it could lose. He thought about it. We talked about it over that night. And he was like, yo, okay, let's go with the Heavy D record. And the record took off like a missile.
So speaking of hip hop, I have a special book here.
Okay.
That I want you to take a look at. It's kind of heavy.
It's kind of heavy.
It is.
It weighs more than a building.
All right. So I have some things highlighted here, and I want you to tell me what these photos mean to you.
Okay.
Let's start.
Wow. There's Russell Simmons. You know what's funny? That's exactly how he looked when he used to first come in to the office. He had like these kind of floppy kind of, I call them, funnel hats and, the shirts. And he wasn't really like fly anything because he didn't really care about what he wore on his back. His main thing was to blow up. And if I didn't see much of Rick Rubin, I heard a lot about him because he never really came to the office. He was working out at NYU with the Beastie Boys. But Rick was like one of the first producers to kind of make things happen.
So what's your relationship with Russell?
I know Russell probably since 83, 84. He and I are cool. We're pretty cool. Like Russell kind of always looked at me as Andre's guy, like, Andre's tag along. Because sometimes I would go out and I didn't know as much about the music industry as Russell and Andre. So I would just sit there and be quiet. So I was just sitting there kind of absorbing everything. And I learned a lot from Russell.
All right, so let me go to another photo. Tell me.
Oh, that's Cypress. So let me tell you what happened with that. I was over at Sony. This is years later. I was at Sony Columbia Records. And Chris Schwartz called me and said, Kurt, there's this group called Cypress Hill.
You signed them, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But Chris Schwartz was the one who told me about the group. He was over at Rough House. But at the time, Rough House wasn't the big label. And they had a couple of acts that was, little, I guess nice to say, a little shaky. Okay. So Donnie Yonner and the team wasn't really paying attention. She said, Kurt, Donnie loves you. Can you please check out Cypress Hill? I said, I think it's in a box somewhere. So I went to the box. Like back then, they used to have tapes. So you had to dig through the box and look through stuff. It took me literally like a week to find it. Finally found it. I was blown away. Nice. You know what's funny? Every record, except for 2 Latin records, 2 Spanish records, that was on that demo tape was that album that sold 3 million records. It might be at 5 million today. But that was my introduction to Cypress Hill. I'm going to tell you another story. One time I went out to LA to meet with them. I don't know nothing about LA. I don't know nothing about no Bloods, no Crips. Like, back in the Bronx, like Latin people and Black people got along and lived in the same neighborhood. Out in LA, it was a little different. And I had a red Corvette. I didn't know you couldn't drive like, it was blue and red and all this stuff. So I'm in this Corvette driving. I got the address and I'm rolling and people are looking at me all crazy. So I pull up and these guys come out and they're just kind of looking at me. I'm like, yo, what the hell's going on? Like, but they had like jackets on. It was like mad hot. So out of nowhere, Sen came out. He says, Kurt, man, what's up, man? Yo, Kurt. And he went and hugged me and said, nah, this is Kurt. I said, yo, what's going on? I can feel a little weird. I said, Kurt, first of all, do not drive that car where you don't know where you're going. That's a red car that represents the Bloods. Okay. Now, in New York, I know it's a little different, but this neighborhood, like you coming up here and you got this red car and you got this like, blue outfit, I had a blue Yankee outfit. They're trying to figure out like what you're trying to do. And later on, Ice-T explained the whole situation to how the Bloods, the Crips, the Latin gangs and the Black gangs, they didn't really fight each other, but they didn't really intermingle. So that was like a crazy lesson, but they had incredible music. The record that sold 3 million was the same record on that demo.
That's incredible, man. You always got an angel around you. I tell you that. All right, let's go to this next page.
All right, it's Mary J. Blige. This is going to take a little bit of time. I have 4 artists signed, and Mary was one of the artists that was on the table. A lot of people didn't understand Mary in the beginning.
Wait, you signed Mary J. Blige?
Okay, let me tell you the whole
So
story.
her first deal?
Yes, Jeff, let me tell you what happened. Jeff Red, who was one of my first artists that side to my company, he worked at a plant. It was like a car factory or something. I think it had something to do with GM parts. And Mary's stepfather worked. They said, yo, my daughter could sing. She could sing. So Jeff got the tape. And Jeff played it for my partner, Charlie and Reggie. And he said, Kurt, you know, you're over at Uptown. Yo, you got to hear this girl. And I'm going to clear a story up. Because in Ebony magazine, they put all the, I won't say bad stuff, but the negative stuff. It wasn't even really negative. It was just true. When we first went to Mary's house, you couldn't go through the front door because it was locked. So we had to go through the back. And the back had it was so much garbage. I was like, yo, this has to be at least like a month worth of garbage. When we got into the building, the elevator didn't work. So we had to go up the steps. When we finally got to Mary's apartment, it was immaculate. Her mother came out, yo, you want tea, you want coffee, you know, you want this, you want that. And the thing of there's two items with this. There's two stories to this. The number one thing I learned, when you interview, they'll take the bad and go with that for whatever crazy reason and leave the good out. But the good part of it was when we got to Mary's apartment, it was clean, immaculate, everybody was hospitable. And it shows you, you're not always your environment. You know, you're not always your environment because you live in a certain situation doesn't mean you have to stay there, and it doesn't mean that's you. And I think a lot of times, a lot of people, especially minorities, we kind of have these things pinholed like, well, you're from the hood, so you got to be this way. You're from this part of Brooklyn, or this part of Atlanta, this part of LA, so I know who you are. And it's not necessarily that way. You know what I mean? And I was a little miffed because the part where the apartment was really clean and beautiful and looked nice. And, you know, Mary came out and she sang, and Mary was maybe like 16 at the time, but she sounded like, you know, a nurtured church girl. Like she was just singing. And I was like, wow, this girl is incredible. And like I said, that's how, you know, we discovered Mary and brought Mary to Uptown. But the story kind of, you know, this kind of came out years later, was Ebony magazine. I was like, oh man, why they didn't put the good stuff? All they put was the bad stuff. But, you know, you learn your lessons.
Right.
But Mary J. Blige, one thing I'm going to say about her too. Everybody thinks Mary being this troubled person, she was hard to work with, hard to do. Let me tell you, in the very beginning, yo, Mary, we need to meet you at 5. She'd be downstairs at 5. Mary, we need to go to the studio, 2:00, ready to go. Mary, you know, can you learn the song? She get to the studio and learn the song. It was a guy. I can't remember, his name was Ryan. I can't remember his last name, but he was like the most incredible vocal coach. Mary was very shy. She was real laid back. And her confidence was a little small at the time. She didn't have big confidence. But this guy was just like, he just knew, Mary, that's so dope. Let's do it again. She was smiling, you know, jump up and down. So we were kind of blessed by being around the right people in the beginning. There were some other coaches that worked with us, some, you know, people working on, you know, talking and so on and so forth, and what to do with this, what not to do, and other vocal coaches. And she had some really good people around in the very beginning.
So when you found her and you brought her to Uptown, or did you tell her to come to your office at Uptown?
Actually, we had a tape, and it was from Corvettes. Back in the day, you could pay like $5, go to Corvettes. That was like a department store, kind of like a low-budget Macy's. We would go there and record. And you pay your $5, you pick a song. So Mary went in and said, Mary, what song you want to pick? I wasn't there. This is what I was told. Was George was with her. That was actually Mary's road man at the beginning. I was like, we cut a tape. We brought the tape to Andre. And Jay was like, yo, how old is this girl? I said, she's 16. He was like, man, get out of here. I'm telling you, she's 16. Then I think Andre went out there. I wasn't there either, but I think he went to meet her at Eddie F's studio. And she sang for Dre there and blew him away.
What's a word or a message, let's say, you would give to Mary right now?
Stay strong. You know, understand that you came through a lot because this was your purpose. I really believe Mary J. Blige is supposed to be in this position. Like, was her direction in life. Because it was, and she had obstacles, and she's award-winning, Grammy-winning, you know, Hall of Fame artist. And if you look back, you know, 25, 30 years ago, people would say, you know, I don't see it. Like a lot of people didn't believe in Mary in the beginning. Like everybody's like, oh, I know she was going to be a star, this and that. That's not necessarily true. You know, she had a ways to go. And not because of talent, it was because basically some people just didn't get it. And what she was the thing that actually made her at the top because she was real. She represented something and people that weren't being represented at the time. And girls and guys, but mostly young girls from urban areas flocked to Mary because she represented what they were, what they were about.
Look at God. Beautiful. This guy here.
Puff Daddy, okay. Let me tell you what happened with that. Okay. Like, Hev would just do anything for me. I would do anything for Hev. So one day, Hev called me and said, Kurt, I got this guy, and he's a friend of mine. He needs help. I said, anything for you, bro. What do you need? He said, he's trying to get in the game, and nobody's letting him in. Nobody wants to put him on. So I said, yo, dude, tell him to come down. Like, no problem. Yo, anything for you. So Puffy came down. I'll never forget.
Do you not know, like, how uncommon that is for someone to call an executive and say, hey, I know this guy, he want to get on, nobody won't let him on. And here you go, nah, just tell him to come on. That's been you since I've known you. Like, you've never been a gatekeeper. You've been like the key to open the gate. And you always freely give that key to people.
You know what? My job is to keep my door open. My job is to say, you know what? Let me hear what you have. And if I didn't like it, I would give people pointers and say, look, I can't really go with this, but this is what I would recommend to do.
Yep. Let him come down to the office.
I'll never forget when he came. I'll never forget this like yesterday. He had this kind of Gumby type haircut. It was like maybe about 5 inches from his head. And he had a blue and white polka dot shirt. The polka dots was about this big. And the shirt came down to here. And I was like, wait a minute, you in hip hop? And I was like, yo, maybe this is why you can't get in. I was just looking at him, but I was like, yo, if you Heb's guy, you're in. And I remember he came in and I said, yo, how do you get back and forth? See, I sneak on the train. I said, I stay in the bathroom. I get in the train at DC.
Wait, Puff? Oh, now with
no, Puff used to go sneak on the train, stay in the bathroom until New Jersey. Because when you get to New Jersey, the only thing they can do is kick you out when you get to New York. So he would stay in the nasty, dirty, stinky bathroom until he got to New York. That's how bad he wanted to work at Uptown. He would just stay in the bathroom. And I was like, yo, dude, this guy really wants to do it. I'm going to tell you another story. This is like a couple of years later. This is when I knew he was going to be the big entrepreneur he is today. So he has this brand new BMW. He's riding around. And I'm like, wow, what's going on? So, I said, yo, how'd you get that? I said, yo, I'm throwing parties at the beach. And I sell T-shirts. So I go to How Can I Be Down and I sell my T-shirts for $20. I said, you by yourself? He said, no, I get 4 to 5 people. I give them each a bunch of shirts. But I already know how many shirts I'm giving them and how much each shirt costs. They get a % of what they sell the shirt for, and I get the rest. So I'm saying, okay, how many shirts you can sell? To maybe 1,000. I said, wait a minute. So this guy's making like $15,000. He's doing this like, 4 times a year. So you're making like $60,000 in the summer. I was like, wow, that's when I knew this guy, he's gonna do it. Wow. He's gonna do it. But let me tell you something about Puff too. He had no problem parking the car, going to the store to get the pizza, going to do this, going to do that. Remember he made all those kids go to get cheesecake? Because something like that happened to him.
Was it you? Did you send him to go get you a cheesecake?
No, I ain't sent him to go get cheesecake.
It was Dre.
But it might have been Dre. I don't know who it was, but they sent, but he used to park the car, bring the car to the front, go get the food, go pick up the tape. I remember when I did this, because Puff was skinny. I seen him, I'm outside, right? And I'm chilling. And I seen him have these big, back in the day, used to have 2-inch tapes. They weighed like maybe 10 pounds or 15 pounds each. And he's got a bag of about 8 2-inch tape, and he's struggling and sweating. And I went, you need help? I said, yeah, man. I said, wait a minute, you want to get these yourself? I said, I had to go get these tapes. Man, they need to go. I was like, yo, this is a hard-working dude. That was Puff in the beginning.
I love that you didn't sleep on him. I love that because there's so many people that came through that branch. You know what I'm saying? But you did sleep on Jodeci, literally.
Yeah. So I'm gonna tell you that story.
So because
is that the next one on the page?
I heard them say that. Like you.
Okay. Okay. You want to hear what they say? Okay. What they say is they came up. They said first Heavy went by, and Andre went by, and I think they were too scared to say something to them. Right? I think MTV was just starting. BET was just starting. Yeah. Video Music Box. Even on Video Music Box, you might see a Michael Jackson video, and then here's Heavy D. So when you're from North Carolina and you're driving up and this is your first time in New York and you see the big building, Heavy D comes, you're not you're going to be a little shy and reserved to say something. Andre Harrell comes, you see Andre's or Jekyll and Hyde, and you know he's the president. They didn't say nothing to Drake. So I think they elbow each other. Yo, we got to go upstairs. So they get upstairs and I'm getting ready to go home. I got no sleep. I had no sleep. They come out the elevator. Now, that story was I was partying all night. Like, Kurt was partying all night. I was working with Jeff Redd in the studio till 7 in the morning. I was going to meet with Andre at 10, and the game plan was to go home at 12. I stayed till 8 o'clock just doing a whole bunch of stuff. Their story was, Kurt was, tired from partying and hanging out. So they come into the office.
You did say earlier that you really enjoyed it.
I love partying, but not that night. That night, I was in the studio. And so in any event, so they come into the office and they start playing their music. Now, this is no slight to Jodeci. This is no slight to Devontae. Devontae's hero was Teddy Riley. So he started playing up-tempos, right? Now, no disrespect, they weren't really known for up-tempos. So I'm listening, and I start to fall asleep because I got probably the 2 days, maybe sleeping on the train on my way back from the studio, whatever. I didn't even want to drive home. I was so tired. I left my car and I was going to leave my car in the garage. So I'm not, and I get an elbow. So now I'm not, and again, I get an elbow. Yo, man, you falling asleep on us.
Who's elbowing you?
I think it might have been, it was either JoJo or KC, because Devontae and Delvin sat in front, and then they were on the side, and one of them started elbowing me. She said, man, you falling asleep, man. We came all the way up here. Our stuff is dope. So I played, I said, yo, this is what we need. I played a Jeff Redd record. Now, this is the thing. Jeff Redd, as far as it goes by record sales and so on and so forth, he didn't go where Jodeci was at. Jodeci was much bigger. But at that particular time, he had a top 10 record. And the next single was also, I think, went to 14 or 15. Now, that's not big as far as Uptown is concerned. We had a bunch of them records. But as far as the industry was concerned, that was not bad.
Right.
So I played him a Jeff Redd record, and they were like, that's cool. I started to fall asleep again. I said, yo, let me go and put some water on my face. I went, and they had a water fountain up at MCA, because Uptown's office was in the MCA building. Put some water on my face, and then when I was walking back, Hev said, Kurt, they dope. I said, you sure? So G Wiz, Glenn was with them. Glenn Parrish, who was one of the dancers, G Wiz. He said, yo, dude, they dope. I said, man. So I walked back in. Devontae started playing his ballads and mids. I was blown away. Now, I'm going to tell you what I think happened. Devontae always wanted to be Teddy. The guys in the group, when I walked out, probably said, you playing the wrong stuff. He played the right stuff. It was hot. Their whole story was, man, Kurt was asleep. And we say, yo, go get your boss. Wake up, man. Go get your boss. And they kind of picked me up and pushed me out the door. That's the story they tell. And I went and got on. That's not how it worked. What happened was, after I was hearing that the music was good, I went out and said, yo, Doc, these dudes are dope. Came back to the office and says, Kurt, you got a feather in your hat for this one. Do me a favor. Here's my card. Take them to the hotel right to next where I live at, which is in Left Rack City. And we drove out there and they went to the hotel. The rest was history. Between me and you, Bob met them first. But what happened was Bob met them first.
Okay.
But
Bob Celestin.
But he was running the management company. He was the CEO of the management company. So he really couldn't sign them. So Bob said, well, I can't really do anything. You got to meet with Kurt. So they drove out the building. They probably would have gotten out there, I would say at least a couple of hours early. I mean, it would have made a difference because I was nodding out the whole day. But that's the story.
All right, so you slept on them, but you didn't really
I
sleep
didn't.
on them.
Well, basically, I'm
You
gonna tell you.
physically fell asleep, but you was not like,
I'm gonna tell you what somebody said. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back.
oh boy.
Somebody said, "Yo, dude, you could just got in the elevator and ran away and just went home." But you opened the door, you let them in the office. A lot of guys might have said, "Yo, you ain't got an appointment."
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll never know because you took the meeting,
Yep.
you heard the music, fell asleep, washed your face, came
Yep.
back, they got the deal.
We got the deal. The rest was history. That's what really happened. Did I fall asleep? Yes.
Okay.
But I fall asleep because their music was whack. In the very beginning, I didn't like it. But when they started playing what they're known for, then I was like, yo, this is dope. And I went and told Andre it was dope.
It was okay.
And Hev had a little bit to do with it, a lot. That's just not a little bit. Hev and Glenn had something to do with it too. Because they told me, yo, they're playing some dope stuff. I said, for real? And they were. But that was the thing. They did more like ballads and mids. That was their forte.
You know, I think that's so beautiful, and it's a special gift whenever individuals are able to see talent in others and to see their potential to help them, you know, reach their maximum potential in life. I think that's just so beautiful. It's a different type of fulfillment and joy. But how did you take care of yourself during that time? Because it sounds like you was living a life, you partying, money, artists, tours.
You know what? I was basically like kind of a nerd wallflower type. I did little parties and stuff, but I have to be honest. I'm not gonna say if I could go back, would I not do it? Of course I would do it, but I would do it in limitation.
Okay.
You know, I wouldn't do it so much. Like I was a party animal.
But there was a turning point in your life and in your career. Okay. But you also met somebody else in the building that changed your life as well.
So in 93, this is like kind of further down. 93 was like a big year for me. I did a deal with RCA Records. This is my first deal, like my deal, not working for Columbia or Uptown or anything like that. This is my first deal. The deal was like about 1.5 million. That's a lot of money. That was back then. That was to run the office. That was to make the records. That wasn't included marketing promotion. That was the label's job. Like
this is for your company?
Yeah, this is for a company I had called Jodeci. It was part of the RCA family.
Right.
I just won A&R of the Year with Puff. Dre had mentioned to me that, you know, you and Puff gonna win A&R of the Year. I was like, cool. And I remember I was always going to BRE and Jack the Rapper. And I was like, yo, one day I'm going to be on that stage, right? 5 years later, I'm on the stage. But Mary's performing. So I'm managing Mary at the time, right? And I'm over at RCA. So I'm running around doing this, doing that, making sure this group is cool. So Mary's getting ready to perform. And when they make the announcement, A&R of the Year is Sean Puffy Combs and Kurt Woodley, you know, I'm the one up there and made my little speech, whatever. But I'm seeing like I got some work to do. So Puffy made his little speech. They came with the trophy, and Puff snatched the trophy and
he snatched your trophy?
Yeah, he didn't snatch it from me, but as soon as the guy wore the trophy, I usually take the picture with the trophy. He grabbed it and was gone. I was like, oh man. But I had so much stuff to do, it didn't really bother me.
Where's your trophy?
I don't have one.
He took it?
No, they only gave us, there was only one trophy.
How are we all going to share a trophy?
I don't know.
Oh, my goodness. All right, so it was a big year for you. You were A&R of the Year. You got a $1.3 million budget.
1.5.
Excuse me.
Yeah, 200,000 is a big difference, but.
So it was a big year for you, A&R of the Year. You got a $1.5 million deal. From
Mary
RCA.
went platinum.
Mary, your artist is platinum, but you had health issues.
Yeah, I'm driving my car on the FDR drive. I get this pain in my stomach that's so bad. If you've ever been on the FDR drive, there's no real way to pull over. So I'm like kind of hanging on the grass. I was there for 2 hours. This pain had me like this. I was bent over in my car and I was like, yo, I can't believe what's going on. Went home, got the pain again. I'm riding my bike 3 days later. It was a come and go. The pain was excruciating. It was crazy. So I would go to these different hospitals. Yo, we don't know what this is. We think it could be a kidney stone. It could be this. It could be that. It was about a month of just going through this pain. I went to 5 different hospitals. No one knew what it was. So I went down to, probably at the time was the best hospital in New York. I still think it is. It was a New York hospital. This is called Metropolitan Hospital today. So basically I went there and the guy looked me over and said, yo, we did a blood test, we did x-rays. I don't know what this is. So he said, look, you need to go to a specialist. I have 2 specialists. You can go to Dr. Straza or Dr. Lou. This guy came out and he was mopping.
And custodian.
A custodian. He was mopping the floor. He said, Dr. Lou. Dr. Lou's the best. He mopped for about maybe another 4 or 5 minutes, put his mop into the pail, and walked through the door. And to this day, God bless his soul, my mother said that was your angel. Because
definitely,
when I went to see Dr. Lou, he put me on the x-ray. This is before they had MRIs. Like they had them, but it was kind of rare. Like, it was like major emergencies of he was really sick.
You ever see the guy again?
Never saw him again. Never saw him again. He was a custodian. I mean, they usually, because they're mopping and doing cleaning stuff, you don't usually see them during the day because the hospital's supposed to be clean. Like if somebody, has an accident or something, you see them come in, clean up and go. But you don't usually see custodians and maintenance workers because the hospital's supposed to be clean. So you don't really see them. If you do see them, they do their job and they're out. When I went to see Dr. Lou, he put me on the x-ray. This is before they had MRIs. Like they had them, but it was kind of rare. Like, it was like major emergencies of he was really sick. Like you would go do an MRI. So he said, I need you to spin around. 360 exactly. So he came back and he said, I got bad news and I got good news. So I said, well, it's not a common cold. I don't know why I was thinking this way. It's not a common cold. I said, I got cancer? He said, yeah, you got cancer. I said, so what's the good news?
What would make you think of the word cancer out of all the things in the world that could be the problem?
Because that's just what came to me.
That jumped in your spirit.
That just jumped in my, I think I got cancer. He said, yeah, you got cancer. So I said, well, what's the good news? He said, the thing is, this is 80% curable. If you do what we tell you to do, it's 80% curable and it won't come back.
So at the peak of your career, you find out that you have cancer.
Yep.
And you found out sporadically by this angel in disguise, said a doctor's name, went through a door.
And I have to be honest with you, the doctor said, look, if we didn't get to this within another 5 to 6 months, there's nothing we could have done. Because it was a tumor that was in between 2 organs. They couldn't see it from the front of the back. So thank God I wasn't scared. Like I hesitated for a minute, but I went, but I kept going.
You find out you got cancer, but your spirit already told you cancer before the doctor.
Before the doctor said it.
So you catch it 5 months before it was fatal.
Yes.
Peak of your career.
Yep.
What's going through your head when you go home? Like, how do you tell your family that? How do you transition? Because you're on the mountaintop at this point, and then boom.
The first thing I thought about was, I didn't think about the business. I didn't think about music, the business, or anything. The first thing I wanted to do is get rid of the pain. Like it felt like somebody was taking like a knife. Like the pain of cancer is crazy because it's actually something in your body pushing and it's building. And that's how people succumb to cancer, because it just takes over organs. So before I could get to anywhere else, because it was spread to my chest, I would have been done. But, luckily for me, and thank God above, I was able to heal myself. But I didn't care about music. I just want the pain to go away.
So music, money, business, artists, fame, attention.
I didn't care about none of that. But then I'm going to tell you another story that happened. As I started to, understand what I had to go through and figure it out, I thought I was Superman. Like, when you're young, you think you could do anything.
How old were you at the time?
Like maybe 27, right? So I'm dealing with this, but I'm trying to run my business and run the company. And when I was young, I was pretty strong. I played basketball, ran track, so I was healthy, ran bikes. I mean, I was like a super athlete. But so I figured I could do it. So one time I was in the hospital and I had to go for treatment 5 days in a row. And they had me on cisplatin, which was like the second strongest chemotherapy you could take. So I was like tired because I'm like in there and I'm like, yo, I'm used to running around. I can't stand still. So I'm in the room. I'm laying there like 2 or 3 days, like, I'm like, yo, I can't take this. I got to go. My mother's crying. My best friend called me. George was like, Kurt, I'm going to take you, but I really shouldn't be. But I'm going to take you because that's what you're telling me to do, because George worked with the company. So I'm out, I'm doing whatever. I'm at my mother's house, because one thing I made it, my family said, look, Kurt, I don't want you by yourself. So I'm at my mother's house, and I started pouring sweat. Like, sweat was just all over me. I started to get dizzy. I walked through the hallway, and I passed out. And my mother was trying to lift me up, because he thought I was, like, gone. And I fell again. The next thing I knew, I was on the stretcher going to the ambulance. So I get to the hospital, I'm in there. So my doctor comes, right? So he says, yeah, Kurt, I got to talk to you. I said, what's up, doc? So I'm smiling or whatever. I said, yo, I'm going to speak your language for a minute. So I'm going to keep it real. So he said, if you don't do what you have to do, you'll be dead by Christmas. What month is this, Kurt? This is August. You'll be dead by Christmas. You got to go 5 days. I don't care if you drink beer, whatever you got to do to get that chemo out of your system, because the chemo's so strong, if you don't flush it out, it'll knock you out.
So the chemo was making you...
The chemo knocked me out. What happened when I was in the hospital, I was supposed to stay 5 days. I only stayed 3 days. I left Wednesday instead of Friday. Those 2 days made a big difference, and the chemo was so strong, I passed out from it.
So you had to get the chemo out your body.
Yes.
What were the artists you were working with at the time?
Mary was on her second album. Jeff Red had a big hit record called You Called and Told Me. He's actually still performing that record. Jodeci, I wasn't working with them, but it was on Uptown, but they were on their second album. And I actually started to work with Alicia Keys around that time. Alicia was working with some friends of mine called Gusto and Greg, God bless his soul. And I was getting ready to do something with her. And also, Anthony Hamilton, that's the name.
Anthony, oh.
Yeah. North Carolina.
Of course.
North Carolina.
You got a thing for people, with North Carolina roots. I don't know what it is. It's always something good. Shout out to Anthony Hamilton. So what did you do with the artists?
I have my own company, so I was trying to sign them to my label and put them through the RCA deal.
But at the time, you're fighting for your life, pretty much.
Yep, fighting for my life. And
so did you just let it go? And
I had to let it go.
Wait, so you had to let your artist go?
I had to let the artist go. I had to let the label go. My partners and people kind of running the label. Wow. And I'm not going to blame it on anybody, but it just didn't work out.
So you're fighting for your life. Your health is priority.
Yep.
Got a $1.5 million deal. Artists, platinum records, and you had to let it all go.
Let it all go. That was it.
You let it all go.
Yep.
Oh my God. So what did that experience and moment teach you about life, faith, and overall, like, what's most important? Because you walked away from $1.5 million, artist, business,
well,
and you seem happy. Most people are bitter and but you always just like.
There was a few ways I looked at it. First of all, there was a couple of days where I kind of felt like, why me? But I always felt God had me. Like, I'm going to pull through this.
God got you.
Like, God had me, so I'll make it through. And there was a day here and there where I was like, why is this happening to me? What's going on? And I always thought that God had me, but at the same time, I had to do what I had to do to get there. I believe that God puts you in situations, but it's up to you to climb the mountain. He'll put you in the room, but then you have to make something happen. You have to build in that room. He'll put a mountain in front of you, right? And say, look, this is the mountain that you have to climb. I put you here, but you have to climb the mountain. And I think sometimes people look at God as, oh, this didn't happen for me, this and that, and people lose their faith. But he puts you in the right spot. It's up to you to make things work.
Because sometimes what doesn't happen for you actually does happen for you, for whatever the reason may be, whatever the hindsight, is. And that's what I believe. And that's, I'm a believer, and I really do see that all things do work together for your good. Sometimes in a moment we don't see the reason for the why this is happening. But in hindsight, when we get through it, we realize that the testimony, the faith, the strength, and that character that's built going through those valleys, it definitely carries you through the next phases of life. Because to whom much is given, much is required.
Yeah, we all gonna go through something.
For sure.
I mean, when we have children, you want them to avoid it. You want them, you pray every night that they don't have these things come in front of them. And I don't know what form it might be in, but we all go through issues.
And the good news is we go through because weapons may form, but they don't prosper.
Yeah.
Because we have the God that promised to be with us. And I feel that's the same thing with you. Beating cancer and being healed, completely cancer-free, completely healed right now, completely restored.
God above, yeah.
Thank God. I
look at it like, every day is a blessing. Like, just to be here. And especially where I'm at, and I've seen people like, to this day, I can't believe Andre's gone.
I know.
I lost both my parents, like 1 week after the other in 2009. But, some people go through things just as bad or worse. There's people I've seen that lost children. People that didn't survive the cancer, lost, a child or a sister or brother to cancer.
Kurt, I really can rap with you all night. You know how we build, like we could do this. And I want to thank you for being...
Thanks for having me.
Always being so supportive, so kind, and so generous. And I thank God that you made it. So because of people like you that have been, like I said, the key to the gate that the gatekeepers try to keep locked. You've really been a generous person and you've helped so many people. And so thank you for coming.
Hey, welcome. Love it down in Atlanta.
You down at ATL?
Down at ATL.
I know.